This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. With drag and drop templates, spend less time on your website and more time on your art. I added autofocus to vintage lenses. I didn't do any of that. This did that. This is what I did. Boom. Now I have autofocus. Yo, Josh, yo. Two things you should know. Number one, DJI did not pay me for this video. And number two, I told you I'd be done with Anamorphia 2 this week, and I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm still super hard at work right now trying to finish it up. So if you're a fan of the channel, definitely tune in for that. Or if you hate my guts and you want to see me burn down, also tune in because there's a high likelihood of failure on this one. Okay, so if you tuned into my last episode, you know already about the new LiDAR sensor for the RS2. Now this is $169. It's not yet on the DJI website. It will go on in the next few weeks, I'm being told. So once it's up, check the link down below. I will post it immediately.
He did it again, the old drop the affiliate link maneuver.
A quick recap, this is the time of flight sensor. It's a LiDAR-based autofocus system. It gives autofocus to any camera and any lens. It hooks directly into the focus motors. You calibrate an in point and an out point. And as long as you're using cinema glass that has like cinema gears, or as long as it's a lens, like a manual lens that has hard stops, you can add your own cinema gear to it and it will work. The last video we talked about how it performs well in low light and how it does a pretty good job working with the Raven Eye and the track focusing. And because this is like newer technology, well, it's not newer technology, it's like really old technology. They use this on like lunar missions, but because it's a new application of this technology in this field, there's a lot of questions unanswered. And the biggest one is, can you use it without the gimbal? And as of right now, this only works with the RS2 and you need the combo kit, you need the focus motors. It does not work without the gimbal. For those of us who don't want that gimbal look, you just lock the motors and now you have autofocus. And it doesn't hurt the gimbal. The gimbal will just automatically shut off the motors until you unlock them. So it does help for those circumstances where you don't want it as smooth as a gimbal shot. Will it work with focus by wire lenses like ones with switchable hard stops, or could you add your own hard stops on these? And you could try it. I've not had any success. And the simple reason is because focus by wire lenses are not really linear. It depends on velocity and how fast you spin. So essentially when you go to calibrate it, you're not gonna get the same results. You're not gonna have accurate autofocus like you would with a manual lens where rotating it 12 degrees gives you the same exact focal distance every single time. I have been a proud paying customer of Squarespace for over 10 years, and they have 100% been instrumental in helping me achieve financial freedom through sales of my digital assets. Things like my Blade Runner color grades or my awesome sound design presets. I'm able to generate passive income with their e-commerce structure that's already set up. It's drag and drop. There is so much money to be made on digital assets simply because there's no overhead and there's no inventory. So if you build up your audience, you can start selling some of these creative tools that you come up with. If you're like me, you're a creator, you're looking to jump in, you don't want to get buried under all the website stuff, check out Squarespace. You can get 10% off your first year. Go to the link down below. You can actually just start it for free. And when you're ready to launch, just hit the go button. So there's a ton of videos right now on the RS2 and the RSC2, but not a lot of information on the new sensor. As of right now, I'm very impressed with it. I mean, is it as good as like the autofocus on my Sony a7S III or even my a7 III? No, it's completely different. And I think DJI is still tuning it in a little bit. So this is really fresh stuff. We're still figuring out how, like best practices and how the sensor actually works. Mainly, how does it work with run and gun? And what happens when you put it on lenses that don't have autofocus? Like vintage lenses. So to test this out, I teamed up with some friends in Burbank to score some vintage glass. Now, shooting with vintage lenses is a long-standing trick in Hollywood. Cinematographers love to take older lenses with special coatings and imperfections and add them to the latest high-resolution cameras. The trouble is, like, you either have to have a first AC or you gotta pull focus yourself. No, you can add autofocus to any lens now. So So Mark's got this rental house in Burbank, and it's old fast glass, and they have all of like the really crispy vintage lenses, the stuff that you want. All of his stuff is clean and crisp. Here we go.
Oh. Look how tiny this little lens is in there, man.
Wow.
This is a 50mm Cooke speed Panchro.
So that's actually a small lens that
Tiny.
was rehoused, so it has a more specific throw.
Many companies now are rehousing these where they take this little, it almost looks like a toy, and they put it in a brand new cinema housing.
That's crazy.
So this is very similar to the housings on like Cooke S4s, totally high-end professional cinema lens.
So
really long 300-degree focus throw, and it's so smooth. Our set is a mix of 1940s, 1950s. Wide open, they're great, they're sharp. You can shoot these wide open, you maybe even think for a minute they're a modern lens, but when you start looking at the details, what the bokeh looks like, they have this little glow to highlight, so like lighter skin tones, anything really bright in your frame is gonna have a little glow, like using like a really light Pro Mist or something like that. So they're just super flattering. Low budget option. These are our Nikon A.I.S. So these are from like the 1980s. They still make some of these today. The focus throw is much shorter, so I'm really curious actually to see how this plays with the autofocus system, because it's only like a 90-degree focus throw for that like fine tuning, and that's why you pay more money for cinema lenses, for like that fine
because they normally,
detail. You're only rotating it a tiny bit, but it might throw the focus a foot out. But you can get one in decent condition, like a 7 or an 8 for $250, $300.
Dude, that's super affordable.
And this is what's crazy, is this is a lens Nikon still makes this. So they made this in the 80s. You can buy this from B&H brand new. And this is a fun one. This is a rehoused Helios.
Do you happen to have a regular Helios to show perspective?
I do.
I can't believe you did that to a Helios.
Original.
That's the holy cow.
The Helios is one of the most mass-produced lenses of all time. I think they made literally millions of these. You can still buy them brand new now. You can buy them in bulk. You can buy like 1,000 of them. There's probably 15 different versions of this lens. Optically, they're all pretty similar. It's really just the coatings. Oh, it's pretty long, but it's stiff, and it's obviously a tiny lens. Putting a follow focus gear on this would be tricky. This is a PL mount, professional mount. Like, this is gonna have some wiggle. It's really stiff, it's older. So here's like in a brand new cinema housing.
So now we go to 3D focus. And it's already registered, so it should be. Now, being an old school filmmaker, I knew Mark would appreciate the new tech, particularly how quick and easy it is to set up, but also how usable the autofocus is, even on an anamorphic lens. Focus on object 1 meter away. So the easiest thing is just to do a reflective surface. It's gonna kick back, and it'll just tell you how far away you are. So right now we're 1.2. Which actually is fine. So the whole process takes about 2 minutes to dial in. It relays the information back to the focus motor, and you calibrate 2 focus points at each end of the focus throw. So essentially, these photons are bouncing off the walls, hard objects, reading how long it takes to come back to the sensor, hence time of flight. So it's technically shooting out near infrared, which is 850 nanometers. So it's just outside the visible spectrum, so there's no light pollution. No light pollution. I can see the red dot right there. Computer, turn off time machine. Well, that solves that. It's still unclear whether or not this will affect Blackmagic cameras at really high ISOs, particularly because Blackmagics notoriously have like a lower gradient IR cut filter. So it's possible I'll have to test that. But for most of us with regular cameras, you're not going to see any sort of light pollution at all. Now, mounting the RS2 with a focus motor and large front-heavy lenses definitely takes a bit of practice, but there are a few things that can help. Number one, the right tools. Some of the hex screws can be hard to reach depending on the way you rig, and that I recommend a T-handle Allen key. These are super helpful, so I'll leave a link of these. I literally just got these 2 days ago. I've been living in the dark ages. Number 2, the combo kit comes with a Velcro strap. I use this to wrap around both lens and motor support to keep the motor teeth from slipping. The times it has slipped is largely due to the base plate not being tightened enough, but this extra layer does help quite a bit. So the first lens up, the Cooke Speed Panchro. For these tests, we wanted to see the vintage lenses perform at the fastest aperture to really test the merits of the autofocus. Could they perform as well as modern lenses with autofocus systems? Overall, this lens is dreamy. There's a significant halo around the subject when opened wide up. But despite the focus motors racking smooth, the first few tests felt off. For one, this lens had the longest throw at nearly 300 degrees, which means the focus motors had to travel a longer distance for the focus pull. So time and time again, the focus worked, but a few seconds too slow. So for this application, it would seem that shorter throw lenses would perform better. A bit counterintuitive to normal filmmaking use.
You're doing great at hair and makeup.
Sorry, babe. You look great. How about I just film the baby? This will take a minute. I'm sorry.
When filming multiple subjects, it's tricky to select where focus lands. Without the comforts of tracking or even a selectable box, at times it feels like a guessing game.
All right, so we're trying to mimic like really hard shooting conditions, heavily backlit. She's not front lit at all. Normally, most autofocuses would have some issues.
Though seeing the focus gear move in real time on a 70-year-old cinema lens looks like something straight from science fiction.
All right, what's next? Let's get the next lens. We'll just point it against the wall. 1 meter away, so what we want to do is focus the motor. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to like... All right, now let's go to confirm. And now it's going to have us go 4 meters away, which is about 16... It's about 13 feet. It's actually not picking up that wall at all. It's saying it's 0.7 meters away. It's not getting any bounce. It's interesting, so this stuff doesn't work on all materials. Black materials, particularly paper, or in this case, black foam, it's not gonna bounce it back at all.
And this is where it gets super nerdy. Near infrared operates under a different set of conditions than normal autofocus systems. Yo, what are you doing?
I am on the NASA website. How do you have this, and why don't I have one?
That's a good question. I'm not sure yet.
I think I have the only one. This is still prototype mode, so it doesn't really behave like other autofocus systems that I'm familiar with. So I'm trying to build a strategy on how to actually like use this thing.
We know a lot about infrared, so you just need to figure out what surfaces will work best, and that's your basic, reflectance versus absorption concept.
Now, Gerald makes a good point. If we're talking IR in general, materials with a high reflectivity index should yield better results. But this can prove difficult as the IR spectrum is quite massive, and I'm not sure what properties apply to the wavelengths at the lower end of the spectrum. But considering I'm using a 60-year-old Russian lens that's never had autofocus before, I'm willing to give it the old college try. Off the bat, water absorbs all wavelengths of infrared, which is bad. We want them to bounce off, not be attracted. So keeping our subjects dry may be a good idea. And from what I remember in 6th period biology, plant material that is more green has a higher concentration of chlorophyll, which blocks infrared. This is good. So it's safe to say that objects that are dry and green would bounce back more infrared particles and have a better chance of locking focus. I haven't lost you yet, right? And we also know infrared at 850 nanometers is widely used for skin therapy, as human skin, which is mostly comprised of water, can absorb the wavelength quite efficiently, yet we're still able to get focus on a face. So figure that one out. I'm surprised that it doesn't reflect off of concrete, which just... So I guess porous materials, even if they're dense, have a can absorb IR.
Well, have you tried more reflective things like metal?
Yeah, like my refrigerator. Like a refrigerator?
Yeah, because you usually need to track autofocus on a refrigerator. Exactly. Test it on your refrigerator, buddy.
2 lenses down, 1 to go.
Mark, can we film your car?
Refrigerator. Now this 1980s Nikon at f1.2 is the fastest lens in the kit, so it felt appropriate for a night shoot wide open.
Dude, these lights are the best. Lupos. This is the Lupo Super Panel. This is actually the light that we shot most of Anamorphia 1 and 2 with. All right, so we got an orange car. What should we do? Teal.
Now, based on our previous findings, placing me against a large metallic surface and hoping it finds my face did not instill confidence. Not only does this lens have the shortest throw, but at f1.2 it also has the smallest margin for error. So I expected many missed opportunities. But on closer inspection, when it worked well, which leads me to believe that some of the soft focus moments may have been influenced by something else.
Throw a couple of these aperture MCs in here.
When surrounding the subject with highly reflective IR surfaces, keeping the subject in the dead center of the frame played a huge role. Better focus could be achieved simply by improving one's framing. Now the IR sensor uses a 15-degree beam angle to send out and receive the near-infrared waves. But sources at DJI say it currently uses the center 10 degrees of that beam angle as more heavily weighted. So keeping your subject dead center is important, but it doesn't always work, particularly if the subject area is small and there's a reflective surface within that focus zone. I noticed this on a sit-down test where my chest and shoulders are in focus, but my face is not. And this is simply a surface area issue. My face is not reflecting as much IR as my chest and shoulders. For example, when pushed against a wall, the autofocus will average more reflections from the wall. It's larger, it has more flat surfaces. But if you take the subjects outside and place the subject in an open area, it can level the playing field. And you can shoot at razor-thin depths of field and get shots that are ordinarily impossible to get with a manual focus. And what happened when we just filmed the car? Lock-on autofocus with a 40-year-old lens at f1.2, even while backlit and looking straight into headlights.
There's a lot of very usable shots in here where it's opened all the way up and it's allowing this camera, which is already good at low light, to be phenomenal. I mean, we didn't go past 2000 ISO. Dude, this is the future of autofocus. Old fast glass meets LiDAR technology. Right, the real test. Will it work in the haze? Yeah, it doesn't work that well in the haze. The haze confuses it.
Science aside, putting autofocus on vintage lenses feels like teaching an old dog new tricks. Simply impossible. And while I can't say enough good things about this new revolutionary autofocus system, I will leave you with this one last thought. If all these lights were off and we could no longer see the car, or even the parking lot for that matter, the sensor would still focus just as good, if not better. Is this game-changing technology? Yes. Are there limitations we must play by? Yes. Can these limitations be overcome with technique and firmware updates? You betcha. And therein lies the rub, the power and limitations of IR.
You'll probably get pretty terrible results in fog because the infrared will just scatter, and I don't imagine it'll work really well in that situation.
Okay, I see what you're doing here.
Give me the Larry David.
I'm sending it to you, Gerald. I'm just gonna send, here it is. You'll have it in 2 days.
Okay.
All right, I'm done here.